So I must say, coming after Andrew and this description from Vision Australia, I just want to move there because it sounds great and they are doing such a wonderful work. And I will try to explain a little bit about what we do in Sweden regarding DAISY online services. But I will also take the opportunity to talk a little bit about MTM, since we are here in Sweden. And first of all, I would like to give you a brief introduction also to the healthcare system in Sweden, because I think it's really interesting to know when we talk about services in different countries. And I thought about, when I was listening to Andrew, that we have so much in common, but we also have differences. And that's not just in how small or big the countries are, but also in what system we have and in which environments we work. So therefore, I'll give you a brief introduction to the healthcare system. And those of you who are Swedes, just relax and forget about me for a couple of minutes. And the others, I think you will have a bit of a help from this. So just to let you know, the healthcare system in Sweden, it's funded mainly by taxes. And it's run by the county councils in Sweden, and there are around 20, I'd say. And it's executed by mainly the public sector, but also by private companies that have been contracted after public tender. So there are different actors here. And why is that important for us and our services? Well, you might remember that yesterday we met with the Minister of Culture here in Sweden, and she also mentioned that MTM is a governmental agency. And we have to work with the other, together with the other actors, through them with our services. So for instance, we have low vision centers in Sweden, and they are a part of the regional healthcare system. And we also work a lot with the elderly care in Sweden, or at least we try to. And they belong to the local municipalities. So it's really important for us to work together with all these other actors. And I think that's good to know when I describe our services and how we try to work with others. Also, of course, I will take the opportunity to mention something about MTM. I mean, we have been hearing here today and yesterday that we are part of the DAISY consortium and all these fantastic things that have happened the last 20 years. But now we work as an agency here in Stockholm, so I will just briefly let you know. We have been working since 1980 as a government agency, and we have different services for people with brain disabilities. And we are situated here in Stockholm. Those of you who know and are interested in the Eurovision, for instance, you might know that it was arranged in the Globe, the arena here in Stockholm, and that's next to us. So if you want to visit, just go to the Globe and you'll find us there. And we are around 110 people working there today. We have a lot of services, of course, as all of you also have, and I'd like to mention some of them. Apart from talking books, we have easy read books, braille books, periodicals. We have a small amount of sign language literature. We have talking newspapers, easy read newspaper. We have a big service, I would say, for college students. And we also have other braille services and reading services. And I know that I have a lot of colleagues here today, so if you are interested in any special service, please let me know afterwards, and I'll guide you to the next right person to talk to. I think I have to mention a little bit more about our digital library before going into our online services. It's called Legimus, and it's our digital library. It's a national resource to download and read talking books. And it's used both by libraries and by individuals. So what you can do is you can reach it through the web, and you can reach it through our app, the Legimus app. And as of maybe tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow, you can also reach it by our web player that we have worked with together with our friends in Denmark at Nota. So now you know a little bit more about MTM and the services we provide. So let's dive into what I wanted to talk more about, and that is our services through Daisy Online. And we have 3 services that I want to mention, and I thought about them when I heard Andrew talking and describing what they have. So I don't think we have that much in the same way today, but we are really working on expanding. And what we have done is that we have started with talking newspapers. So this is a service that we have included in our services at MTM today. We also work with talking books through Daisy Online, but this is, for the moment, a project. And we also have something called community information that I will talk a little bit more about and explain what it is. So these are our main services through Daisy Online for people that don't use our app or the web. Because this, I think, is important, and this is a challenge that we have that I would say is universal, that we have a challenge to reach all our users. And as everyone else here have talked about, a part of them are easy to reach and others are not. And like Andrew also said, and like Patricia talked about this morning, it's very special to talk about reaching the internet, or do I have to use a computer or whatever when you are not used to technology. So this is really a challenge for us all, I think, both to talk in the right way and to provide services in the right way to get everyone included. So I thought I'd start with talking about our talking newspaper service, since this is something that we already have in place. I'd just like to tell you what we mean when we talk about a talking newspaper, because I think it's different in different environments and different countries, and to be true, it's even different when you talk about it in Sweden. What we mean at MTM is an accessible version of a daily newspaper. And it's a newspaper that's edited by a newspaper company, and they receive economic support from the government to provide this talking newspaper. And anyone with a print disability is allowed to subscribe to one of these newspapers. And the subscriber in Sweden also pays a subscription fee to the newspaper. I know that also differs around different countries. What we have done in Sweden is a technical change of the newspaper service for people needing a talking newspaper. It's a service that has been here for quite a while, but for some years ago we received a mission from the government to change technology for these services. So we now have this in place since more than 2 years. And therefore I think it's good to talk a little bit more about this service, because here we have learned a lot that we can use when introducing new Daisy Online services. And those of you who listened to Text Talk yesterday, you will recognize some of the figures and some of the information, since they provide us with the production system for this service. We have around 120 newspapers, both nationwide and local ones, today in this system. And they are all text-based, and they are read with a high-quality text-to-speech. And that, I think, is important since we have worked very much to be able to have really good text-to-speech in this service, because it is a bit different when you want to use TTS to listen to news. It's a challenge to be able to provide good pronunciation of new words, of new people, of new actions all over the world. So you have to put a lot of effort into the TTS. What you are able to subscribe to is a bit different, referring to who you are and what you want. You can get a full content newspaper, but you can also get a newspaper where you can have a selectable order of the parts in the newspaper. That is, that you can ask to have, for instance, the sports first, if you're more interested in that than the first page or the news. And you don't have to select that yourself, so you can receive it in your order when you get it in your, for instance, your Daisy player. You can also receive a short version of the newspaper if you're not interested in having the possibility to choose, just to get a nice selection of the daily news. As I said, production is not what we do mainly at MTM. We have a provider for that, and that is our partner TextTalk. And if you want to know more about production, don't hesitate to talk to them. They know a lot about that. What we do is that we work together with them in the production of the talking newspaper. But of course, the newspaper content is uploaded from the editor and then converted into a talking newspaper in Daisy format, just like Andrew told you earlier here. And then it's distributed through the internet, even though you shouldn't say the internet, to the end user, and to the equipment of your own choice. And here I think is where it's getting really interesting, because now we talk about how to read this content that you receive. And like Andrew mentioned, you can have equipment of your own choice. For instance, a Daisy online player. And you can also use, in our case, the app, Legimus, that I told you about. And you can, in our case, also receive your newspaper in an email, and then you can choose for yourself how you want to read it. What we have in Sweden when it comes to talking newspaper is a government mission to provide also subscribers with players. If you don't have one, or if you don't have access to the internet, then MTM provides you as a subscriber of daily newspapers with a Daisy online player, including internet connection. And that goes for this service with talking newspaper. And I think that can also refer to the Ministry of Culture that we heard yesterday, because it's part of what the government thinks is part of democracy, that everyone should be able to be a part of this and then receive news and information. One thing that has shown to be very important is our user support. Because this service is mainly used by elderly people, not used to technology, not interested maybe in internet, but only to be able to reach their newspaper. So what we have is another partner. They are called Polar Print. They are also here at the exhibition, and you can talk to them too if you're interested in how they work. They have a phone support that we provide 5 days a week. So if you can't reach your newspaper on Saturday, unfortunately you have to wait till Monday. We also provide subscribers with home visits. And that means that they can, if they want to, have help to be introduced to the equipment, to the talking newspaper. They have an instructor coming to their home, and who will describe how it works, and they will train together to be able to read the talking newspaper. And if you need to, you can have an instructor coming to your home several times. That has happened. I think mostly we had one user who had 7 visits at their home to be able to fix this. So I mean, it's different how easy you can use these things, even though it's supposed to be easy to use. So that was our first service. And I should mention also that this service is not choosable. It's the way to read a talking newspaper today in Sweden. So what we did when transitioning to this solution, Daisy Online solution, is that you couldn't get your newspaper in another way. And that's different to what Andrew told about, that you can use a CD or something else if you are not interested in Daisy Online. For talking newspapers in Sweden today, this is the only option. That's different, though, with the other services that I will mention. The Talking Book service to elderly users is a service that we have today in Sweden, and those of you who work in libraries, you're very familiar with this one. It's something provided by local libraries to users who are not able to visit the library or who are not able to download from the web. They get in contact with the librarian and they instead receive CDs through the old-fashioned mail. This is a free service for the users, and I think very many of them are satisfied with how it works today. There are, although, some things that could change and could be better. For instance, it's time-consuming, both for the libraries, but also, unfortunately, for the users who might have to wait for their books up to a couple of weeks after having ordered them from the library. So what we now intend to do is to include this service instead in our Daisy Online service, and then especially for the elderly people. We did a pilot in 2013 with this service, so we have tried it with, I'd say, around 70 end users. And we learned a lot from that. And they were very interested in the service, but we had to make it better in some ways. So now we are there, we are doing it, and we are introducing it for real, so to speak. And what we are doing now is that we have decided to start this service for our users who already read talking newspapers, because they are already introduced to this, and they are familiar with how it works, and we can also, on our side, use the same infrastructure for this service that we do for the talking newspapers. So how will it work? Well, for the end user, it will be almost the same as today. They will have a call to their library, and they will decide together what books to use. And then the staff at library will put the books that you choose in your bookshelf. And this means that you as a private person can still have your contact with your librarian. You can discuss the books, what you want and what to read, and you can get ideas on what to borrow. But the difference from your point of view as an end user is you don't have to wait for the books to arrive. You will get them much faster into your Daisy Online player. And the librarian can also spend more time with you discussing books than having to think about when to be able to provide the CDs that you will send in the mail. So we hope that this will be a good solution both for the librarian and for the end user. We will try this out for real, so to speak, this autumn. So after this summer, the first libraries and the first end users will get into this service. And almost at the same time, we will include another service, and that is what we call community information. This is also an existing service today, and it's, if you remember what I told you about this healthcare system and what we have there, we also have community information, and this is provided regionally or locally in the form of magazines that is published approximately 2 to 4 times a month. And around the country there are about 60 magazines today. And this is information that is recorded with human voice, so it's not only text only. And this is today mainly provided on CD and distributed on mail. And this is a service especially for users with visual impairment. And it's a free service, this also for the users. And that could be, if you listen to one of these magazines, you could get information on maybe an interview from someone local, or you can get information on a construction work in the middle of the street, so that you can't read about anywhere else and not in the local news magazine anyway. So this is information that you don't receive in your daily newspaper, but it really is of use for you as a citizen. This information is also something that we will include in our DAISY online services later this year. And this is even a mission that we received from the government at the end of 2015. So I can say that I feel that it's clear that the government realizes this type of service is of benefit to the citizens, and it also gives more people, or hopefully all people, a way to be included. We are now in the position that we will try this with the magazines. We are working on it now, and we will also try this with end users later this year, so in autumn. And hopefully, and that is our plan, we will have 20 of these 60 magazines in the service at the end of this year. And this is also a service that we will start by introducing to our daily newspaper readers. And I will just briefly come back to why this is. Just to let you know what's next. What we have found during these 2 years, mainly with the daily newspaper service, is that there really is a need for further development of these services. They are good, but they can definitely be better and more easy to use. And this, I think, will be especially important development to work together with end users and find out what their needs are to build these services even better. And I think this will also include further development of, for instance, DAISY online players and other of the options that are there to be able to use these services. And also more of a cooperation with not only the end users, but also with these low vision centers that we have here in Sweden, with local municipalities, and also others involved in services to our end users. And I'd like to conclude with not an answer, but maybe more of a question, or something that at least is a challenge for us here in Sweden. You might remember I told you about that we can provide equipment for reading for people who are not able to use an app or don't have a smartphone. We provide them with DAISY players to be able to read talking newspapers. But we don't have a mission to provide them with the same equipment to our other services. So that means that if you need a DAISY online player to be able to read your talking books, you have to go to a low vision center instead than MTM. So that's why it's really important for us to find ways to talk with each other and to explain to each other and to work together to be able to provide end users not only with our services, but also with the right equipment to be able to use it. And I don't have the answer for that, but thank you for listening.
Thank you, Susanne. So now we have a lot of time.
Oh, great.
We have a lot of time for questions. So if you have any questions, we have a lot of time for them.
The other day I got information from the Swedish, I don't know who, but anyhow, about the new subway in Stockholm. And so it was just a leaflet. And I wonder who has the responsibility for that to be, for the people to be able to read that.
So let me see if I understood you right. You were asking about information, that's community information in the subway?
About
the subway?
Yes. So it's just a leaflet coming in my
yeah.
Yeah.
That's really a challenging question for me, I think. And I'm not sure that I can answer it. But I'd say that it would be, and I'm thinking now, who's responsible for the subway? The city. Yeah. So then it's the city that should provide this information in Sweden. Am I right? I'm looking at my colleagues. Yes, I am right. Yes, and it's not, how should I put this? It's not perfect. Not yet. But it's a delegated responsibility, and that goes also for different government agencies or regional agencies and public services. That is a delegated responsibility, and they should provide this. We also have, and maybe we have people from that government agency here too, one responsible for helping and assisting other agencies and other services on how to provide accessible information. But the responsibility, yeah, I think we have a man from one of them here, so you can ask him afterwards if you're interested. And they provide the other agencies with information on how to do this and how to be accessible. But it's a delegated responsibility to all of them to do that themselves. And please correct me if I'm wrong, it's not my specialty. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll let one of my colleagues add something after the next question, maybe.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have a question here.
We had one, I think.
Anders from Nota in Copenhagen. I have a question. Do you know how many subscribers you have on each newspaper, and how do you promote each newspaper to the users? Did you get it?
I think you talked a bit fast for me. Maybe it's
okay.
Because
yeah, sorry.
of the,
I'll try again.
I can repeat it and see if I understood you right. It was about how many subscribers we have.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also,
what have you done to promote the newspaper for your users?
Oh, great. That's a great question. I love that one. I think I can answer that one better, but I will have help with the next one then from my colleague. So the subscribers at daily newspapers today, they are around 5,000 in Sweden. And they have not been that many before. They were a bit more before we did this transition to Daisy Online, around, I'd say, 6,500, 7,000. Now we have 5,500. We think they could be a lot more, but I think it's a challenge that we see in the same way that media see a challenge regarding our daily newspaper on paper. There are not so many subscribers nowadays, and I think that's also something that we see in the talking newspaper service. But we also think that by providing more services this way, we will also be able to highlight the service for daily newspaper, because there are not that many people who know about this service. If you have heard about talking book services, it's not always the same with talking newspaper services, so that's not so common. What we did regarding your second question is that last year we had a big campaign, a national campaign, to inform people in Sweden about the service for talking newspapers. And we did this in cooperation with daily newspaper agencies, and also offered them help in promoting their service, because as a subscriber you are their customer. We provide the service that you are able to use it, but not the real thing. Then you are a subscriber to the newspaper. So we try to work together with them with that. What we did at the same time, we had a questionnaire out in Sweden, and we asked people, do you know about this service? And I'd say around 30% did. So we have a lot of work to do there, and we have to work together with the local and national newspaper to do this. So it's more work to come there. Anyone else? Or otherwise you can give the mic to my colleague Anne.
Anne Stigell, MTM. Just a quick reply to the first question then, that the MTM Commission from the government is to make published information accessible. It could be books or it could be newspapers. And then we have this specific commission, as you mentioned, from last year, about regional community services. But the general information for every city or region, that's not our commission from the government. And that's the duty of each city, each region, to take care of their own information and make it accessible. And it's very specific that we only have the overall duty to make information. So just an added information to that last question.
Okay.
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 So Susanne, thank you for a very, very interesting presentation.
Thank you.
And the host would also like to give you something.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.